I'm a stupid college kid and it's something that I can do. I'm kind of known in like Southeast Michigan location. I'm a Porsche fanatic. I buy Porsche parts, I sell Porsche parts. I love 911 Porsches in general. I'm just a nut. So I have at home a 1977 Porsche 911. It's this like oak green color with like this puke green interior. But it's my pride and joy. I've had it since I was 12 years old, and it's something that I really cherish. So I wake up this one morning and it's one of those school mornings where you start real early, and I drive out school, and I finish this really long class, and my cousin, bumps into me and he goes, "Hey, Danny," he goes, you want to go out to the auction?" And I tell him, I'm like, it's kind of had a rough day, I don't really like waking up early. And he goes, "Please, man, just check this car out with me. I just want to go to the auction real quick." And I'm like, "You know what? Fine. We'll go to the auction. We'll have a good time, and maybe I'll see a car out there." So we're about an hour out. We drive out to Mannheim Auto Auction, and he's showing me this like Mustang that was damaged up front, and in the very distance, I see this really sloping, roof, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's not a normal car. That's something special. So, as we get closer, I'm like, oh my God, that's a 911. And, me fangirling, I'm like, I gotta check it out. So, looking at this car, it was '09 911, 60,000 miles on the dash, so in perfect condition, give or take, it'd probably be worth roughly $50,000. So something that was way out of my budget. Suffered some damage in the front, and had an airbag deployed and whatnot. And my cousin, he's also a car guy. He's like, "This is a cool car. It's sure enough, it's the same green color as my 77." And I'm just like, oh my God, what a dream it would be to have this car. We look inside, I see that the, navigation disc is still there, the manual's still there. Things that, people tend to steal in the auction, unfortunately. So I go ahead and I take the nav disc, I take the manual, and I shove them under the passenger seat. I hide them real good. I look at my cousin and I tell him, people really steal these, so the next owner of this car is gonna thank me. He's gonna be real happy I hid this for him. He starts giggling, and sure enough, took some photos, and we were on our way. I noticed, I kept thinking about this car, and I zoomed in on some of the photos on my phone, and I saw the seller of it was a credit union as opposed to one of the larger banks. So I figured, maybe I could finesse something with this. Sure enough, naturally I call up the bank and I say, "Hey, I saw this 911 for sale you guys have, and I was actually really interested in buying it. I noticed that, you guys had it on the lot and whatnot." And mind you, this was in a lot before it goes to auction by like a month out. So they still haven't even labeled the car or put it in the auction yet. I ended up calling the bank and I started telling them, "Hey, this car's for sale. I want to buy it." And they say, "Okay, very soon. We might be interested. I'd like to speak to some managers and, move some papers around and whatnot." And I'm like, "Okay, very well. Give me a call, and I'll make it happen." About a week goes by, week and a half, 2 weeks go by, and I don't hear from anyone. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, they probably just sold the car and moved on because it wasn't on record. I start shopping for another car, and I see there's this SL63, and I was like, wow, this might be a very, very nice car to own. It's something that I've always wanted. Love SLs. It's no 911, it's no Porsche, but hey, it's another German car. You gotta love them. So this auction's coming up Monday, and it's a water flood, Texas flood SL63, so it's a real ballsy move, but I'm a stupid college kid, and it's something that I can do. Okay, it's something that I want to go with. So I'm getting ready to bid on it. I get all the accounts lined up, everything, all eligibility is all signed up. And I get a call the same morning from a gentleman named Jay Watson. He goes, "Hey, this is Mr. Hamoud." And I go, "Yes, who's asking?" He goes, "Yeah, my name is Jay. I'm calling from Mannheim Auto, and I was wondering if you were still interested in this 911. And I had a decision to make there. Do I take this 911, my dream color, or do I go ahead and take a risk and buy this SL63 from auction? So naturally, being the Porsche guy I am, I said, forget Mercedes, forget anything to do with Mercedes. At the small chance I might get this Porsche, I'm going for it. So sure enough, I go out to the auction and I, start talking to Jay, and he goes, let's check out this car and make sure everything's, well sought out and all that stuff. I look under the back end and I see AWE tuning, mufflers are missing and all this stuff. And I go, something's played with this vehicle. It's a pretty low mile car. And mind you, like I said, it's been damaged in the front. And I asked Jay, can I start the vehicle up? I want to hear a cold start on the vehicle. And he goes, absolutely not. You cannot start the car. It's been damaged in the front. It's going to overheat. I tell him, come on, Jay. Have you ever heard of a guy not start a car and buy it? I go, I want to hear the car, He goes, fine. You can start it up for, 10 seconds and shut it right off. So, okay, put the jumper box on it and start it up, and the car screams like, rah, all this stuff. All Porsches sound broken when you start them. I don't care who tells you otherwise. But I start it up, the car screams, and I shut it right off. And I tell him, well, sounds like somebody stole the catalytic converters on this thing. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, it happens in auction when cars sit, people steal things. And I'm like, it kind of lowers the value of the car, but I'm still interested, So we start walking back, and he goes, so what offer do you want to put on the car? I tell him about $10,000, and I'm telling him, I'm a little embarrassed to tell him this price because, I'm a college kid. I, don't have too much in my savings, but tell him, you know what, $10,000. And he looks at me, just starts laughing. He goes, you're not going to buy this 911 for $10,000. He goes, absolutely not. So I go, yeah, it's right. I just missed out on this SL63. I probably could have gone for like 15, And he goes, you know what, come to my office. And I'm like, okay, So we're sitting down in his office, whatever. He picks up the phone and he calls the credit union and he goes, hello. He goes, yeah, so Mr. Hamoud is here and he'd like to make an offer on your vehicle. He goes, what's the lien on the car? And, here's some talking. I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. And he goes, okay, very well. He hangs up the phone and he goes, how does 11.5 sound? I look at him and I go, yeah, I could do 11.5. I could do 11.5. That sounds fair, And in my head, mind you, I'm popping champagne bottles. I'm going nuts. I want to do a backflip. My heart's beating. I'm like, oh my God, I just bought the same color 911 as my 77. This is freaking awesome. And mind you, I did not intend to buy a car that day. I just went to check out the 911. I call my dad. I go, hey, Dad, I just bought a 911. I'm coming home with it. And he's like, okay. It's like, that's odd. Call my little brother. I go, stay home, get ready, clear the driveway. I'm bringing a car home. So after I got this 911, I'm driving this Saturn Vue. So it's like a kind of a ghetto car. It's not the nicest car. So I parked the 911 next to it in the exterior lot, so that way a tow truck can come pick it up. And it's a Monday, so people who know towing know that you will not get a tow truck to come out on a Monday. So I called probably close to like 40 to 50 different tow yards. The gentleman who actually answered me was a really nice guy. He answered the phone and I go, hey, I really need a tow truck. I need to take this car home. I'm kind of in a pinch here. And he goes, sure, where are you coming from? I go, Detroit to Farmington. And it's about like, let's say a 40-minute drive. And he goes, sure. So he goes, $50. And I'm like, you didn't even ask what car he's towing. I was like, all right, sure thing, come on by. I'm at this location, send him my address. And he goes, sure, I got to pick up my kids from school first. So I was like, okay, it's kind of weird for a towing company. But so then this tow truck comes up to my car and mind you, it's like this probably 1990s, towing car. And he brought his kids with him on the tow. And the tow truck is smoking white, all over, reeked of trans burning or something like that. And he goes, hey, are you Danny? I go, I was afraid to say yes. And I was like, yes. And he goes, so I'm taking this to Dearborn. And I'm like, no. I go, you're taking it to Farmington. And he goes, oh, the quote I gave you was to Dearborn. It was on my way home. He goes, I'm going to have to charge you more for it. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't care what it costs. Just take me home. He goes, okay, $70. And I was like, here's $100. I go, just take me home, okay? And he was like, sure thing, man. And then loads up the Porsche, just yanks it up from the rebar, which I thought wasn't really professional, but I was like, I don't care. I start following home from a distance because I really didn't trust this tow truck driver. And sure enough, He stops at McDonald's. He stops at, 4 different like truck stops, and I'm just sitting in this tiny Saturn in the background, just staring at my car, and people are looking, and I'm just like, get me home. I think I got home like maybe it was a 40-minute drive. I got home probably like 2.5 hours later. I was, to here, I was like, all right, that's fine. That's what you get. You get what you pay for, At the end of the day, it was all worth it because, I made it home with my 911, and that's all that mattered in my head was I got the 911 of my dreams, and it's in my driveway right now. And it probably took about less than like 2 weeks. I had all the parts ordered. I assembled the car myself because I just simply did not want to wait for a collision shop to take care of this thing. I went full 9 yards. Mind you, I probably was failing my classes because I was just too busy working on this car. I remember it was probably like a month later. I had the car running and driving, ready to go, registered, and it was my first running 911 that was in my possession, and I could not be happier. I was probably the luckiest person to find this newish 911 for the price I did. You will not find that deal again, I promise you. So pretty much after I was done with the car and all in, the repairs must have cost me probably like $5,000 because you got to factor in no labor costs or any of that. So I really did have the cheapest 911, at least in Michigan.